Welcome back to the Bring of It podcast. We're back today with the continuation on the Let's Be Fair theme, a place where we talk and challenge public perceptions on people or things. Today we're focusing on the career of Adam Sandler.
And the sort of general typecasting that a lot of actors in Hollywood have to deal with.
Now, I think this might be a good place to start it, because there's a bit of a theme on Adam Sandler's career, which is maybe mediocre comedy. Well, in terms of the quantity of his films, you get a lot of good films out there, but there's one or two, and they just and they kind of give him a bit of a bad rap. Like, for instance, and Rory found out this was his first film earlier. Going Overboard is a film that I've never seen this before. It has a 1.8 rating on IMDb. It's about a young comedian trying to make it in cruise ship comedy.
Well, I think with him there's a...
his name?
Yeah. It's like Schletsky Morowitz or something like that. He likes to play on like the Jewish comedian theme quite a bit as well.
Oh, incredible.
Well, I think that's a lot of like... Well, I think that's one of the things that people a lot of the time don't like about him. He's just... A lot of his comedies are like, oh, I'm Jewish. That's funny.
I don't think I noticed that when I was a kid. I don't think I watched that and thought, that's that.
But yeah, I do agree that there's just... I'm looking through his filmography now. There is a lot of films that are just really bad. And I don't know, it might not always be his fault, but it's just... His style of comedy isn't for everyone, I think.
It's very much so bad it's good, isn't it? A lot of them.
Yeah.
But I think I sort of love a lot of the ones where they're terrible, like Happy Gilmore, Little Nicky. They're all stupid, and it's sort of like slapstick.
Jack and Jill.
Jack and Jill.
I'm staring at Jack and Jill right now on my notes.
Jack and Jill is the one where it's so bad it's still bad.
Oh.
It's just atrocious.
Well, I wrote in my notes, and I never do this. I wrote, you can have too much Adam Sandler in the Jack and Jill notes.
Oh God, I've just remembered Al Pacino's in it.
Al Pacino?
Al Pacino's in it?
In Jack and Jill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm looking at it now. He plays Al Pacino.
Oh, that's typecasting. Don't you just hate it when you're played as yourself too often?
Another person who's always typecast in his film is Rob Schneider. And there's a bit in Jack and Jill where he just comes in randomly and he's like, "You can do it, Jack and Jill."
Is that his only line, or...?
Yeah, I think, well, from what I remember. I think I've just seen a clip of it.
Whatever you want to say about Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider's just worse.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Rob Schneider's just there to get a paycheck, isn't he? Really?
I don't mind him. I think he's funny.
I think Adam Sandler's just sort of like, do you want a bit of money? Yeah, he could be a much
yeah.
They're just mates, aren't they?
Yeah, he has those like four mates that are in every one. What's the other guy?
David Spade.
Yeah, David Spade.
Kevin James.
And Kevin James, that's one. Paul Blart.
He looks so different without his beard, Kevin. I think I've actually probably seen a lot of Kevin James films, but not realised it, because he literally turns into a completely different person without his beard.
Oh, he looks a lot better with his beard.
Is it The Zookeeper? Or
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. It's one of those films that all the supermarkets are begging you to buy in those little racks. It's like...
I think the main thing that all these films have in common that we're naming is that they're very underwhelming comedies.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed them. I've definitely enjoyed some of them.
Whether or not you've enjoyed them, they're never going to be the ones you look at when you're thinking of the best comedy films you've ever seen.
Yeah.
No, but you could go back to them with mates and just enjoy them.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I think when we're talking about Adam Sandler and being typecast, that is who he's typecast as. He's that sort of weirdly creepy but weirdly lovable husband that somehow always has an incredibly good-looking woman.
He just plays himself, doesn't he?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Because he produces all the films, so he just puts in whatever maybe not what his life's like, but maybe him in a slightly different life that he'd like, and sort of makes like vulgar comedy around it. Yeah. And it's good a lot of the time. Like, I can enjoy it, but that is literally him.
So he's he's not really trapped in the typecasting thing. If he's the producer, like he's the whole thing with typecasting, where typecasting could be like a problem for some actors, where they actually kind of want to, where they actually really enjoy acting.
They want to break the mold, but they can't because the only jobs they get are these stereotypical roles.
I got notes on Adam Sandler's character. You said like the silly character, I guess, but it's also something I saw that someone said he's a short fuse character as well.
Yeah.
Like someone who loses rag quite quickly.
That's part of the comedy half the time, isn't it? Him like throwing a temper and breaking stuff and shouting stuff at people.
Mm.
Like that's all of Happy Gilmore. Like when he breaks his clubs and throws his caddy down the hill. Stuff like that. I've
watched that very late in my life.
I love that film.
Yeah, because he does produce and a lot of the time help write these films. He just, it feels like he's just on screen and there's not even a script. It's just him being how he is normally.
Like YouTubers.
And I guess that's why a lot of the comedy might fall flat, because not a lot of thought's gone into it. I wouldn't say any of the films he's made are intelligent in the way they use comedy. A lot of it is just quite immature.
I suppose that's the whole idea of YouTubers, though. Is like they basically sell their personality, but it's just an exaggerated version of their personality. That's what they're doing.
Oh yeah, I don't think he acts that over the top all the time.
Yeah,
it's just
but
persona.
But if we're like sort of, because I've got a list of the films that I've actually watched. Last night I watched Uncut Gems because that was very important in the whole sort of changing what character you play. But the films that I remember watching, there might be more, but I just picked out the ones that I remembered or the ones at the top of my head. I've watched 50 First Dates, which was a bit more of a serious film. There was actually an arc to it. I don't know if has anyone watched that? I don't know if there's any.
I watched it at your house.
You watched it at my house? You were watching rom...
I remember.
Why did I pick a rom-com then?
I don't know. You're like 50 First Dates. You're doing good. Let's watch it.
Avengers or 50 First Dates, Rory? 50 First Dates.
Avengers, was this like a year ago?
I think Avengers was like the only film I had when I was a kid.
No, I remember we watched X-Men Origins Wolverine around yours once.
That was around mine? I thought we watched it at the cinema.
Well, I'm fairly sure it was around yours.
I definitely watched it at the cinema. I don't know who with. It must have been with you lot.
Probably.
And I think I was one of the only people that liked it.
This is getting a bit off topic.
Anyway, anywho.
Sorry, that's my fault.
But as you were talking about with Uncut Gems, there's something I want to say. I don't really think he's changing the character he plays, because in all of his films, even in the comedies, I feel like he seems creepy, he seems a bit sleazy in all of them. But in Uncut Gems, instead of making him the lovable protagonist who gets the beautiful wife, they're making him a sleazy man. And because his normal acting style, I think, is exactly the same in a film like Grown Ups or a film like Uncut Gems. It's just the character he's playing now fits his acting style, rather than trying to make him be a character that it just doesn't work with. That's why I think that performance is so good, because he's already proved himself to be a very good sleazy, questionable, creepy character, and now he's been given a film that allows him to really explore that.
Yeah.
I think the only aspect they took away is the goofiness, really.
Yeah.
They just make him not goofy, and then that's it. That's him sorted.
That's why I think it works so well.
I suppose goofy's not something I'm going to be that semantically pedantic with. But
You what?
Big words.
Oh, yeah.
Big words.
Thank you. But
I'm actually going to have to look that up. Sorry.
Okay. Don't click too much because it'll ruin the audio.
Sorry.
But I felt like it. I felt like he was still a bit goofy. In the films.
I can see a level of goof. Obviously, he's toned
a
down.
level of goof.
But like at the end when he's watching, spoilers in case you haven't seen it, it's a great film. Watch it. But at the end, when he's doing doing the massive bet and all the celebrations, and then before he gets shot, but that whole that feels like classic Adam Sandler, the gloatiness and everything. But I think it works because he's been given a role that allows him to be that sleazeball.
He feels more like a real person, doesn't he? As opposed to how he feels in Grown Ups or something when he's watching kids backflip and punch themselves in the abs.
That ending was so shocking, like the way it was going, because I remember thinking, oh, I can't believe this looks like it might be turning into a happy ending.
Yeah.
And then that happens and you kind of like, oh my... I was actually kind of shell-shocked. Is there any other film? Because is there any other film by Adam Sandler or with Adam Sandler in it that has a sad ending or like a sort of a tragedy kind of?
I mean, it doesn't. The actual ending in Click isn't sad, but there is a bit where they try to be sad, but because it's him, it's just laughable.
Oh no, I tore up at Click.
Really?
Yeah, it was sad.
I thought.
I remember finding Click sad as well. I did watch it when I was like 8.
That was when I thought. That was when I thought to myself, okay, he's got some versatility in his acting, like because that's if you were to ask anyone who's watched Click, anyone who's watched Click among all the other films they've watched, I reckon if you ask them the top 5 saddest scenes, they'd probably put Click in them, genuinely.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
That was okay. Well.
What, top 5 in Adam Sandler films? Then probably, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I'm talking. Top 5 saddest moments in Adam Sandler films, and yes.
No, I'm talking in general. It's quite a famously well done scene.
A whole film.
You think that's a top 5 saddest moments of all films ever?
No, of the amount, like the average person who doesn't watch like hundreds of films. Like if they watch Click, then their type of film, like they probably don't watch films that often. I'd say.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I can't think of many more. I can't think
I get
of many
your point.
more.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
But
But yeah, I'm not like with Adam Sandler, you don't get a lot of bad or sad endings. But I do want to point out one thing about Uncut Gems is that the directors are the Safdie brothers, and obviously they started off quite small with small indie films, but it seems they have a running theme of taking actors who are a bit disrespected because they directed the film Good Time, and if you've seen it, you'll see an incredible performance by Robert Pattinson, obviously someone who's probably been typecast from the Twilight films, and then they take him and put him in a role that you just don't expect, and it works perfectly in the same way it does with Uncut Gems. So
I feel like the people. Sorry, carry on.
I was done.
Okay, right. Anyway, I feel like the people who decided, and don't get me wrong, I don't think the Twilight films were good. Like I don't think they were that good, but I feel like the people who passionately hate them are the same people who used to passionately pretend to hate Justin Bieber, so that no one thought anything bad of him. Like I can't. I think if I watched Twilight right now, I wouldn't be that bored. I'd get enjoyment of it.
To be fair,
there's
I watched the first one with my sister. It must have been a couple months ago. There are some entertaining moments, but there are some that are laughably bad.
Like the staring scenes.
It's not an offensive film, though, is it, at all? I don't know how you can hate
definitely
like
not.
that. Like, it's literally just like a sort of rom-com with sparkly vampires. There's some sick scenes in it as well, like the baseball scene.
Yeah.
And
My monkey man.
At Christmas, at Christmas when I was stuck at uni because of my job, I watched the last one on E4, and the fight scene at the end of that was very cool. I had no clue what was going on.
The one where it turns out it wasn't real, though.
Yeah, that was a bit annoying. But there's like some
what a great
kid
trope in films.
Breaks the ground and stuff like that. I was like,
wow.
wow.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the first film there, and I was like, that was real. No. The last one, yeah.
But yeah, if we do another episode talking about actors and their career, I think Robert Pattinson would be a very good one to talk about.
I think
because he's had a very well, simply put, a strange career. But I think it's one that I could probably talk about in a bit of detail in another episode if people wanted to.
Yeah, I think that might be quite good to do after we've seen him as Batman.
Yeah,
because that will be the moment. That will be like the Uncut Gems moment where you see him as a vastly different. Well, not vastly different.
If you want to see him as a vastly different,
Lighthouse.
watch the Lighthouse.
Yeah,
Terrible
performance
film,
in
but
that.
he's very
No,
weird in that.
I love the film. I loved it.
It's an awful film.
No, I loved it.
Oh, I really want to.
Yeah, Henry, you probably won't like it.
I really want to watch it now, so I can argue with one of you.
Most avant-garde, like there's a semblance of a story, a slight semblance, but it just gets more like batshit insane as it goes on. Like there's tentacles that come out randomly. Robert Pattinson shags a mermaid. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous film.
I don't know what's not to like. But there's one compliment you can give the film is that Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are insanely good in it. Their performances are great. But yeah, Henry, I would recommend watching it just so you could have seen it. It's definitely a film you need to see at least once. But
no more than once.
I mean, because of my film reviewing at the moment, I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating. I've got about 10 recommendations pending, and that's including series as well.
I've probably given you about 4.
And it's actually quite stressful because I don't want to say to the person recommending the film who's doing it in their own time because they've considered me. I don't want to say to them, "Shut up! I've got too many." Okay, I don't want to say it, but I'm thinking it.
Thinking about the film recommendations I've given you, I've just thought of another typecast. That. So yesterday I recommended you the Tom Hardy film Lock, which is great. It's a great film. But Tom Hardy is a perfect example of a character that pretty much plays the same person in every film he's in.
What,
someone
who dips their head and looks...
The gruff person who doesn't like to talk too much, grunts a bit. He's just a person you wouldn't want to mess with.
He's got that sort of shy, the little hybrid of shy boy and hard man, like where his head dips slightly and he looks at normal sort of ground eye level, like the whole.
Have you watched Bronson, Henry?
No, I haven't.
Watch him in that. That is the perfect hard man, shy boy. The whole thing. He can't. Well, he's not very good at stringing together sentences completely well, but he's rock hard.
Oh, love it.
It's like a big. It's interesting.
Bronson is sort of a nice little mix of the characters he played in Legend and when he plays Bane. It's like a nice little mix, like a notorious English hard nut, but he's bold and big in Bronson, so he's a nice little mix.
He's similar in even in Peaky Blinders. He's just sort of neurotic and just
mumbling.
Mumbly's such a weird way to categorise an actor, isn't it? But it is.
It's his acting style. If you watch The Revenant, you'll have to put subtitles on because everything he says is just.
So many of these films I'm about to watch, like Revenant, but then I see the time, then I see how long the film is, and I'm like, I need to keep to a sleeping pattern.
Revenant's good.
It's really good. It's one I've watched once, but never felt the need to watch it again.
I watched it in the cinema, and I think it's one of those films you have to watch in the cinema.
But
it's such an Oscar bait film. But speaking of Tom Hardy as well, I think the epitome of his gruff, mumbling, shy boy persona is seen in Mad Max.
Oh yeah,
he has about 10 lines. Yeah, 10 lines. Like, I'm Max. That's all he says.
Did he say he was Mad Max?
No, he doesn't.
Or was that dubbed?
He shows that.
He shows it.
He's quite angry for the whole film. So
that's that. You could argue that's the way to be a good actor. You show something.
You show that you're mad.
Show, don't tell. Yeah.
That
show and tell.
you're told that you're supposed to be a certain way, and then the actor depicts that personality. That's what acting is at the end of the day.
That is some crazy logic from me.
Anyway,
See, it seems to have gone off quite a.
Yeah, I was going to say
left Adam Sandler behind.
I've been looking to try and throw an anchor in here and try and get Adam Sandler back in the conversation.
I've got someone who's typecast in a similar way to Sandler, but again, sort of does it. I think he likes how he's typecast. Seth Rogen.
I noted. That was the first one I put down. Actually.
Yeah, he doesn't. He never plays anyone different. He's always a stoner, sort of laid-back, funny man, isn't he?
I've actually got quite a good. I didn't even know you were going to talk about Seth Rogen, but I've got quite a good fact that his roles. No, that's my impression. Just looks like it.
I was going to say, I hope you could be impartial in this conversation, Tom.
You know the film Pineapple Express.
I haven't seen that.
I assume you haven't.
No, I haven't. I keep.
Okay, well, this one will be to you, Rory.
Okay.
So, you know James Franco's character and Seth Rogen's character?
Yeah.
So, originally, Seth Rogen was going to play the weed dealer, the character you'd expect from him. And James Franco was going to play, like, the straight guy one you'd follow. But James Franco was, like, so dead set on playing the weed dealer that Seth Rogen had to change the role for himself, because he wrote the weed dealing role in the thought that he would play it, so he had to change. So if you think like that's like one of the films where he just plays a different character, but
I don't think it's that different. He still throws cross bumps, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, have you seen the trailer for his new film?
I think you said something about it.
Yeah, the one where he's like he's from like the 19 or whatever, and he works in a pickle factory, and he falls into a vat of pickle juice, and it preserves him for 100 years.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up, and it's a concept only he could think of.
I guarantee he'll be smoking weed in that film. No doubt in my mind.
Well, he finds his great-grandson or grandson or whatever, who is obviously also played by Seth Rogen.
Oh, right.
So it's a film where there is the normal Seth Rogen that is just himself trying to teach the 100-year-old Seth Rogen, which is a version of Seth Rogen that you'd expect from 100 years ago. That's the concept of the film, and only he could think of it.
Interesting.
It looks good though, in a weird way.
But
I've got oh no, Karen Henry.
Oh, I'm just desperately trying to get Adam Sandler in somewhere.
Yeah, I was about to.
But I just I've got Waterboy as next on my list, but at the same time, I really want to give credit to Grown Ups, because that is probably one of my favourite films.
Grown Ups is definitely the best of the comedy for him.
I think in general, if you were to pick out like a slapstick comedy that didn't try and do anything ambitious with the plot, or like just kept in its slapstick comedy sort of threshold, like can't think of a film immediately that did it better than Grown Ups. Like sort of a family comedy, inoffensive.
Yeah, family one that everyone can watch.
I don't know if Grown Ups is inoffensive.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they made fun of a fat person.
I mean, I haven't watched it in a couple of years, but I do. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily call it a family film.
Would you not? Grown Ups?
No.
What's the controversial joke in there?
I can't remember the jokes now. I remember it being a dodgy at times.
Oh.
Isn't there a bit where one of their daughters comes, and all four of them are taking looks at her slyly and saying how hot she is? Isn't that sort of not family friendly?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it is.
It's very.
If I had a kid, I wouldn't show them that.
Oh.
If I wanted to show them like a family film, it'd be like Paddington or something, which is great. Paddington 2 is great.
Marmalade.
Haven't seen Paddington.
The second one's actually, it's really good.
But
should we go back to?
Go back to what?
I had a point about Adam Sandler's typecasting that I didn't make earlier. I think is quite good, and
Okay.
I think it's based on Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
And I think another reason why that's so lauded as a great performance is because if you're typecast in a certain way, it makes it all the more gripping and interesting if you've changed it. So I feel like even if it wasn't like an amazing performance, I think because it's changed, it's going to get attention and maybe seem better than it is. Not that it was bad, but I think it's the same with any actor. I feel like I don't know, Daniel Radcliffe after Harry Potter tried to do all these different indie films. I don't think he's the best actor ever, but I think just because he's doing something different, he'd probably get more attention than another actor doing one of those films.
Have you seen Swiss Army Man with him?
Yeah. I've seen the trailer.
It's a very interesting film, but it is very good. And obviously he's doing something very different.
He was dubbed to play Spider-Man.
Was he
really?
Yeah,
Isn't he like 30 or?
For the Amazing... No, I mean, back in the day, for the Amazing Spider-Man, I think it was that. I think it... Probably because he was short. Like, you want short people, don't you?
Spider-Man's supposed to be like 5'10", I think.
Is he?
He kind of looks...
I thought he was supposed to be tiny.
Kind of looks like Spider-Man as well.
Yeah.
It's Wolverine I'm thinking of.
He's going to be the next Wolverine.
Oh...
Well,
yeah, I'll give it. No, to be fair, no. I think that's one of the one roles, well, like Wolverine, where no one will ever be as good as Hugh Jackman. I truly believe that.
I could see Taron Egerton do a good job. He's quite small as well, so he fits.
I like him, but I don't like his little. I think he's a bit cocky in his roles. Like even.
I think you need to be.
I know, but like, the sort of the little constant undertone of cockiness sometimes just like ugh. It's just annoying to me. I don't know. I don't think that makes him bad. It just is personal. Personally, I find it a bit annoying.
Yeah.
But Waterboy is a very Adam Sandler performance.
Well, I'm looking at his IMDb page. I'm looking at the films, and it's just he had a bad run.
Did he? When was that?
Well, there's Jack and Jill. No.
That was like
That's My Boy. No. There's Pixels, which I don't know if either of you have seen, but
I've watched that.
It's just
it's not very good.
I don't know how they got Peter Dinklage in it.
I didn't.
Paid him a lot of money.
And Sean Bean. Oh my god.
Did he die?
Actually, no. Sean Bean will be in anything. That's
got killed by a pixel at the end.
Probably.
Yeah. I sort of tried to wipe it from my memory, but it's just it's hard to get away from what everyone thinks of you when you just continue to make below average comedies that are just instantly forgettable.
Because he enjoys it. That's why he does it.
Yeah, he makes money and he enjoys it. It's just him and his mates making a film. Like, he just is like, "Oi, do you want to just make a film?" They're like, "Yeah, all right then."
Like what we've done here with the podcasting.
Yeah.
Just casual, like. But
and in 10 years, Henry, we'll be making Grown Ups 3.
Oh, great! I think what it does say a lot about, because we brought up a lot of other examples of typecasting, and I think they've actually been quite vanilla examples compared to Adam Sandler. I think it says a lot that we're using uncut, and I've used it as well. That we're using Uncut Gems as an example of where someone sort of pulled away from their typecasting, because he is actually, like, when I watched it last night, he is very, very similar to his actual, like
it's basically the same performance. It's just the type.
It's just
of
a
film.
bit weird. It's the type of film. Yeah, definitely. But he just changes a little bit.
Yeah. Well, there is obviously another example, but I don't think either of you have seen it. I haven't watched it in ages, but Punch Drunk Love, the Paul Thomas Anderson film. I think it's Paul Thomas Anderson. Obviously, he's not a director that's going to make films like Grown Ups. Like, he directed There Will Be Blood, Boogie Nights, Inherent Vice. Like, he's the type of director that will make a serious film, and it's a really good film. And I haven't watched it in a while, but he plays this character who's quite quite in on himself. It's not a character you expect from Adam Sandler, but he's very good at playing the sort of like shy, nervous, but also at the same time goofy, sleazy character in that film. He does a good job of portraying both, and it's a good film with a really good performance from him.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna the describing words you use sounds like Waterboy until you got to the sleazy bit, because Waterboy's a little sweetheart.
It's a bit like Derek by Ricky Gervais. A bit more.
Well, Derek's a lot more mature.
Yeah, I was about to say a bit more goofy.
I've seen some questionable scenes in Derek. Yeah. Oh my god, I want to watch that through. I've only ever watched like the outtakes of Derek.
Yeah, I saw one earlier on TikTok. It had me in stitches.
Oh, it is actually disgusting.
Yeah, it is.
But just a quick fire round of the people, because I read like a list of 30 people that people say they're typecasted, but the two that I picked out other than Seth Rogen, I picked out two others, was Helena Bonham Carter. She always seems to play this sort of eccentric looking, like strange wardrobes, sort of scary, imposing personality kind of person.
I'm not sure that's like. It's more the director, like, 'cause she, like, the only film she's in, really, these days, like, she's like, Tim Burton's like, oi, Helena and Johnny, do you want to be in a film where you play the exact same weird, eccentric characters, like you did 3 years ago? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, those two have a very weird relationship. I don't know if they're still married, but Tim Burton was married to Helena Bonham Carter, and every film he'd be like, Johnny Depp, do you want to be the love interest of my wife in this film?
There's definitely something weird going on there.
I think a majority of these actors that are typecast do these roles because it is playing themselves. Like it really, all of them that we've read out are all very similar to the characters they play. I've got one. I've got Christopher Lee, who I've got written down. Yeah. And I don't think he's necessarily the same as the characters he was typecast as, because he was Dracula 10 times back in the day.
10 times?
Yeah, every single Dracula film he played Dracula. And he said later that he regrets it. And then later on he played sort of similarly like regal and aristocratic villains as Saruman and Count Dooku.
Yeah. It's just...
I don't know if it fits his personality, because I haven't really watched any interviews with him, but it's odd. He obviously got stuck in that loop for the whole of his life.
The main one I had in my mind was The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, which I think he just plays himself as well, like, and he's the highest paid actor in the world, isn't he?
Is he really?
Something like
You're kidding me.
Well, like last year or the other year, but like.
Yeah.
You just look at his roles when he's Bravestone in Jumanji, which are very underrated films, I think. Like he's one. I think on average he makes actually good, enjoyable films a lot more often than Adam Sandler does.
I was just thinking, surely Robert Downey Jr. earns more than him.
Don't think so.
He's much.
Well, that's like Robert Downey Jr. Obviously, but like.
Doesn't act that much.
Yeah, like Dwayne will be in like 3 blockbuster films a year.
Well.
Let's have a look at Robert Downey Jr.
I've just found. I'm looking through. I'm looking through his Dwayne Johnson's filmography, and I've just found one film, which is one of.
It's one of what?
Hello. Can you hear him?
No.
Yeah, neither could I.
Tom's gone, everyone. Let's carry on the conversation.
Something's gone wrong there.
Bye, Tom. See you next week. Anyway,
I've got an interesting typecast one that I think you'd be able to chime in on.
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
big guy.
You get a couple where he's the big sort of brawny military guy, isn't he?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Can you think of any where he went against type?
That soldier one maybe I know it sounds. It's the Christmas
That
one.
soldier
The Christmas one. Do you remember that one? I can't remember
No.
what he did, but I remember vaguely he was just the father. Is Thomas? Was that Tom?
Yeah,
Okay,
Maggie.
right.
It's
I'm
called
back.
Maggie.
Hello, Tom.
Hello.
Did you hear
Is it
any
the
of
one-
what I was saying?
Nah,
No.
we've moved on now, so
Well, no, I want to talk about what I was talking about.
fine.
But the film
Okay.
the film Henry is Maggie. It's the one where his daughter turns into a zombie.
Oh,
Okay.
we might be talking about two different things, but anyway, carry on, Tom.
Okay.
I don't know how much of that you heard because I cut out for whatever reason, but I was saying I was looking through Dwayne's filmography, and I found one of my favourite comedies of all time, The Other Guys, where like the four main characters are all actors who are just completely play the same people in every film. So you've got
Oh my god.
two main characters, Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell, and then you've got two of the other characters, Samuel L. Jackson and Dwayne Johnson. I think, especially Mark Wahlberg, he just plays Boston character in every film. Even if he's not from Boston, he'll just have an inexplainable Boston accent.
I saw a trailer for like Spencer Confidential or something. I think it's called. I remember just watching the trailer and thinking, literally, they just haven't even tried to do anything different with him. Oh, he's
got Post Malone in it.
he's the tough, underestimated guy that just beats everyone up. Great, cool. Right, next film.
I think it's just the more we talk about it, the more examples I can think of. But there's not that many actors who will jump from genre to genre, different character to different character.
I don't think this I don't think this actually disagrees with you. Well, not disagrees with you. I don't think this is an example that goes against what you just said. But there was an example I thought of very, very, very recently before I started recording, which was Robert Sheehan. Is that how you say it? Is it Robert Sheen or Robert Sheehan?
Guy from Misfits.
Misfits.
Oh, God.
The guy from Misfits.
He forgot to do his warm up voice exercises before he started.
Robert Sheehan, isn't it?
Let's just say Nathan
say
Young.
Sheehan.
Let's just say Nathan Young from Misfits.
Okay.
But anyway, he quit Misfits as probably one of the most liked and successful characters ever on Misfits because he didn't want to be known for one role or perhaps one personality, but he didn't want to be like a one role extravaganza for the rest of his career. So he left that by his own choice. But I don't know if he did that successfully. Well, he kind of did.
I think he did. Like, I won't lie. I've only seen 2 episodes of The Umbrella Academy. I haven't got around to the rest of it yet. But from what I've seen, his character is
quite different.
It's very different because he's in Misfits and in it. He's an extrovert in both of them. He's very loud, but in very different ways. Like his character in The Umbrella Academy is a lot more. I don't know if it's the right word, but androgynous and a lot more eccentric than his character in Misfits, who is a bit more vulgar.
There's just much more depth to his character. He is a very deep. I watched the whole of Umbrella Academy. He does turn into quite a deep character. I do enjoy his character quite a lot. I think they do continue to play. It would be a crime not to, but they do continue to play on his very natural wit in real life. I bet there's a ton of improvisation in filming, and I bet there will be for the rest of his career, no matter what role he plays. Like, because it'll be a crime not to use that. It's just stupid. That's like trying to use a banana and carrot cake. It's just stupid.
That's what it gets. That's what it comes down to when you think about typecasting. If you're good at something, you want to carry on doing it. A lot of people. Obviously, I'm not an actor, so I can't speak for people who are actors. But when you're comfortable with something, when you're good at something, you're gonna do it more often.
It's like
I think the worry for a lot of actors on that front is mainly if I move away from this thing that I've done really well at and I go into something different, what if I do badly at that and then someone else won't hire me?
Could you imagine Jeff Goldblum in a film
think...
where he's just speaking really slowly and like doesn't know what he's on about? he's just waffling. That would just be weird, wouldn't it? No one would buy the film.
I think a lot of, because typecasting can be an issue when it comes to a lot of actors, and I think it's one that's more of an issue with racial minorities, but it's something that is getting better. That it's still an issue because there's always the stereotypical black best friend in like teen dramas or whatever, where they're not really. It's the characters haven't thought out well. They're not. They're just there for like. It feels like. I'm not wording this well, but there's a lot. They're just there, but they're typecast, and then they never really got the lead role until like recently.
I'd say in general, complexity and depth to character is definitely something that's sort of grown in the film industry and the television industry. I think there was plenty of films beforehand that just followed a very very well loved recipe, and I think that I wouldn't know where to start with. Where I'd say sort of 2000 the sort of the early 2010s was where that started to die out. Those just sort of casting roles, having a nice recipe that works out, like an abduction or something like that. They add layers, they add way more twists to the point you get lost, and they add character complexity and depth.
It is. A lot of typecast is based off of like, stereotypes, and it was a really big issue with racial typecasting in like, especially in the 90s, 80s, and it's just like if you watch films like that, it's the worst of it was in the original Hollywood, like in the 30s, 40s. We did a module about it, and we did a week on typecasting, and if you look at those films, obviously that was an extremely racist time, but if you look at those films, the only black characters will be waiters or waitresses or servants or performers. They never got a bigger role, and it's just they were typecast into those things because of their race, and it's something that's taken Hollywood. It's taken Hollywood a long time for it to get over that.
No, the first black person to win an Academy Award was playing a slave. It was in
Roots.
What is that? What's that that really famous film from the 30s? It's like if you put films like gross domestic product through inflation, I think it's the most profitable film ever.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm surprised it was as early as 30s.
I was reading something recently, so I know who you're talking about, and she won it for supporting actress, didn't she?
Yeah.
I was reading something recently. Only one female black actress has won the leading role Oscar, and it was Halle Berry, and she didn't win it until like 2002. That was the first time a black actress won, and another one hasn't won it since. And like with the leading male role, I think only like 3 or 4 have, and this is a topic for another podcast, but it is an issue, and I think a lot of that can come down to typecasting and not being given a chance to play those bigger roles.
Do you ever wonder
the film was Gone with the Wind, by the way. Sorry.
Do you wonder if it's like a bit of a time lag thing, because a lot of books and a lot of TV series are based on books, and a lot of books that are popular have been out for a long time, and a lot of those books were written in sort of very subtly racist times or bigoted times.
It's that, and I think it's producers and heads of companies that are very set in their ways, that I think it trickles down to the rest of the company to make a sort of like, because you had like back in like the 1950s, you'd have the blacklist, which would keep films that weren't to a set American principle out of cinemas, and I think there's still elements of that in Hollywood today. Like you still have people that think that's the way to make a film, that's the way to make a hit, we'll make it with that sort of recipe.
Yeah, I think that is kind of evolving out of Hollywood though. You know, like
A lot better.
I mean, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, like there's sort of, I don't know if quotas is the right word, but like you just have seen a lot more sort of diversity that I think often surprises you, and then you're like, okay, yeah, good on them, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like the casting of Mary Jane in the Spider-Man films, like the previous 2 Spider-Man films. Obviously, I think all of the lead roles were like white, and I think they just sort of changed love interests and stuff like that. Like, why not?
Well, I have like people who find issues with it. I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
who cares?
Doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, like.
Like the kids wouldn't know.
If
Kids
you're
wouldn't
bothered
know.
by a black actress or a black actor getting a role, you're most likely racist.
But it's
those
this,
weird nerds that are completely set on having everything exactly as it was in the comics.
no kids that's watching Spider-Man movies is noticing that sort of stuff anyway. So.
Yeah. Again, this is going very off topic.
Yeah, but anyway, like,
we could very easily have a completely new episode of this podcast.
I'm already reconfiguring the title in my head. But as with that in mind, because we probably should sort of round it off. Has anyone got any any more sort of either, I suppose, it would be a bit anticlimactic to just end with one example of typecasting. But just any theories in general to do with typecasting and where we think it's moving, or like if maybe even if it's not a problem at all, maybe because we opened with it like it's a big problem, but maybe how you round this off is accepting maybe it's probably not a problem. It's not a problem, but just sort of a habit.
I think in the cases of like actors like Adam Sandler or Dwayne Johnson, I don't think it's an issue because they're just playing the characters they're best at. Because let's be honest, you're not going to see Dwayne Johnson in a emotionally complex role because he's not a good enough actor to do it. So if he should just he should stick with the comedy roles because he's a good comedic actor, but he's not exactly a complex actor, I don't think.
Well, I mean, he was a comedian first, wasn't he? Adam Sandler was a comedian / actor.
I thought he was still talking about Dwayne, and I was like, he was a wrestler, Henry.
Oh yeah, I know. I was a big fan back in the day.
Sandler did stand-up, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like most comedic actors, well, I don't know if most, but a lot of them are comedians first, like especially with
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. A lot of in America, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart was a comedian first, but even in England, you've got like not Phil Mitchell. Yeah, David Mitchell.
That's brilliant.
Phil Mitchell's a very different person.
But yeah,
I was going to say I think typecasting is only a problem. Well, no, typecasting is only a thing for actors who, like Tom said, only have a certain range to play a certain type of character. I think with the amount of indie films and stuff that are being made now, if you're stuck in one role, a lot of actors can go to a smaller budget film. If they put on a good performance, they're out of the typecast.
There's one person.
There's a lot more room for that now because there's so many smaller film companies that are making films.
Yeah. One person you mentioned, Jim Carrey. Obviously, he was one I was going to talk about. Then I thought about some of the other films he's made, like Eternal Sunshine, with A Spotless Mind, and The Truman Show, where he's excellent in the roles that actually demand a bit more gravitas.
I would actually say Jim Carrey is an example of someone who's actually managed to pull away from typecasting quite well.
Broken the mould.
Yeah, definitely.
But
in the 90s, he's that guy. He's the very flamboyant, arms everywhere, loud, extroverted character, and then
every decade
he
dials
changed. He dials it down a bit in The Truman Show, but he's still very extravagant in that film. But then if you've seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, that is just there's pretty much no comedy in his performance. He's just completely got rid of all of that, and he's just a very good dramatic performance.
But anyway, any final thoughts, or is that our final thought?
I think that was my final.
That was a damn good final thought.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey.
All right.
Anything that ends with Jim Carrey is a great thought.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Anyway, thanks for tuning into the Bring 'em It podcast again. Very happy to have you. Tune in next week. We'll try and keep it. We'll try and keep within a theme, but eventually we'll probably mix it up a bit. Just think, if anyone's sort of looking at the topics right now and thinking, maybe not my sort of thing, keep checking us out, because I think we'll probably end up doing something maybe a bit more general, or a bit more.
We'll try and do
specific.
something different each week. I've got a couple ideas on something we could do for next week.
It's very vaguely named for a reason. We didn't call it the film podcast.
I think we should.
Might even be a TV show.
Else, I'd imagine.
We'll probably
At
what?
some point, anyway. Probably come up with something else. I reckon.
I bet we'll get stuck with Bring 'em It, to be honest. Welcome to the Bring 'em It
I don't
podcast.
think it's that bad of a name.
It's very authentic.
It is a film quote after all.
Yeah, true.
I don't think we should. Yeah, I think that should be like a Q&A episode where someone says, "Oh, please tell us why you've named it Bring 'em It." You don't get to know yet. You don't get to know yet.
Wait a while before we get into Q&As.
Wait, we will.
Just be three of our mates asking 10 questions each. We're like, oh, a new person.
We got 26 views on last week's podcast, so
That's
if we
more than I was expecting.
if we get 27 this week, then that's growth.
Yeah.
And sooner or later we'll have people asking us loads of questions.
If we get 23, we'll probably have to call it a day, because we're just going downhill.
Yeah. Yeah.
See if I can,
Watch out.
See if I can get Barack Obama to retweet it.
Watch our podcast, or we'll go away and never come back.
Favourite podcast.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.